This homemade fume extractor, welding hood, exhaust vent is like probably one of the best things I've done in a long time. It's only like 60 bucks, and I mean, it's useful. I use it for everything. I traded out the orange lenses for clear lenses. I think that's going to look a little bit better. I'll probably put some LED bulbs in it at some point. It's time to change out this Maypop. You know why they call Maypops? Maypop now, it may pop later. Look at the, I think she's down to the wear bars. So this tire here is that tire there.
We've got a bunch of welding projects coming up, so we got to get these bikes out of here. I've got this one, and then I've got my other one I got to take care of. But in order for me to get on to welding projects, I got to get these things done, because this is really the only time I have to do it. And I got to get it out of the workshop and get them back into storage. So today we're going to do a rear tire, and I got to put on a new brake line, and we're going to do an oil change. Now, to give you a little bit of a backstory on this bike, it's a 2003 Suzuki. It is bone stock. It even has the original front brake pads that are all original. This bike has been crashed, and I'm going to talk to you more about it here in a little bit.
If you don't want to scratch and damage your rims, this is a handy way I found to break the bead on a tire. I see people struggling a lot when they're breaking down their beads on their tires to actually break the bead, and they use these tire irons to try to get the bead broken. Well, you don't really need to do that. That's just a squeeze clamp. You can do it with hand pressure and it breaks the bead, and it works really well. You still need these, but that works good to break the bead to get the tire loose.
I love doing my own work. For one, it gets you familiar with your bike, and for two, there's just a great feeling of pride when you finish something and you do a nice job. Plus you save a bunch of money. That's nice too.
So now that we got the tire off, now what I do is I check the rim for balance. So what I've done is I've mounted up my wheel in the balancing stand, and then what I've done is I've taken off any existing weights that's on the wheel, and then I just rotate the wheel a little bit and find the heavy spot. You can see how automatically it's trying to find its own place. So what I do is mark the heavy part of the wheel, which is right there. Now, it's a common myth that the heavy part of the wheel is the valve stem. So what they say is you take the dot on the tire, which is right there. That red dot signifies the lightest part of the tire. So the theory is that this is the heaviest part of the rim, so you line the lightest side of the tire up with the heaviest part of the rim. But as this shows, this is not the heaviest side of the rim. This is. So by actually finding the heavy part of the wheel, align the red part of the tire up with this, and it will cause me to use the least amount of wheel weight to get this tire in balance. And if you don't believe that it's true, make your mark, then bring it to like 9 o'clock and let it go. And if we had a few minutes to wait, eventually that would settle out. And then once it does settle out, it'll be back on the bottom. You can just check it again, put it at 3 o'clock, let it do it again. And that verifies that that area right there is the heavy part of the wheel.
Now it's time to put the tire on, so I just spray down the rim with some soapy water and start the process of prying it on. Now they make a rim protector, and I find I really don't need those. I just take a piece of plastic. You can get it from a milk jug or a windshield washer bottle or whatever. Just a piece of plastic between that bar and the rim, and that's really all you need to protect the finish on your wheels. I find that that works well for me anyway.
Yeah, now with it all mounted, it's time to fill it up. There it goes. Oh, it's going to be loud. Oh!
Now I'm going to check for leaks by spraying some soapy water around the bead on both sides.
You can see how just offset the heavy part by just a little bit. So now the heavy part's like right here. So what we got to do is put a weight at the top of the tire to counter offset it. Just for the heck of it, I'm going to tap on one of the existing ones and see what it does. Alright, so our weight is going up, so that's saying that the heavy end is still down here, so we need more weight up top. So we'll put it at 9 o'clock. Yep. So I put on our second weight to see what that does. And it's still heavy at the bottom. Still wants to go up, so we'll add some more weight to that. Easy enough. I put the existing weights that were on it again, and I added 7 more grams. So it's good now. Then you bring it over to 9 o'clock. And there it is. No matter where you put it, it'll stay right where it's at. And you know, if it wasn't quite perfect, I'd probably lean on the side of being a little light versus a little heavy, but that's just me. You can save yourself a considerable amount of money doing this. I was quoted to do the front tires, quoted 100, and I did that last year, and now this year I'm getting a back tire, so that was 100, and that's if I brought it to him. So $200. And you can buy everything that you see me using here for 200 bucks. If you're going to ride a motorcycle for a while, it pays for itself. Plus, it's kind of fun to do, to work on your own stuff. Or at least I think it is, anyways. So now that we got our tire mounted, I want to finish up what I started last year, and that's get this brake line replaced. This is the original brake line. They say in the service manual that you're supposed to replace these brake lines every 4 years. The great thing about these brake lines is, well, one, they're made in the USA, but two, they're braided in their lifetime. They say they never need to be changed after this. So what I do is this right here, this piece, it's just a piece of stainless steel. It simulates the thickness of a brake rotor, so like that there. What you do is just slide that between your pads, and then if you go to hit your brake pedal, or go to bleed the brakes, you don't have to worry about the pistons poking all the way out. Now I can hit this brake lever, and nothing's going to happen. And now that'll still slide out, but it won't push the pads out. These brake pads that are on the front of this bike, they're the original to the bike. Not the lines, but the brake pads. And this is a 2003 Suzuki. Pretty impressive. It's got pretty low miles on it. The nice things about these lines, though, is that they are they're direct replacements. They're not just like some generic size line. There's actually like, this has like a little tiny little crook in the end of the fitting, and it's straight at the back, and that replacement line is the exact same way. So everything just fits really nice. These come with all new bolts and washers and everything, so it's a complete kit. You don't have to do anything fancy. You don't reuse anything. You just get rid of your old and bolt up new. These are just real high quality. So look at that. It even says, well, that says master cylinder, but that's not. They put the tag on the wrong side. That's the master cylinder side. It's got a little crook on it, on that end. Must have put the tag on the wrong side. Oh well. See, it comes with all new bolts and washers and everything. I bought all this stuff with my money, just so you guys know. This isn't a sponsored video or anything like that. Supposedly these are like some of the best stuff you can get, and when you're doing brakes, you really don't want to skimp or cut corners, because you know your life kind of depends on it. So figure these brakes are the original, and this bike's a 2003. It was time to replace them.
I bought this rear brake line at the same time I bought the front brake lines, and I realized that the front end was bent and the forks were bent. If you want to see that video, I'll have a link up above. But the reason I didn't do the rear brake line at that time is because I just didn't want to bite off more than I could chew. I didn't know what I was going to get into with the front end, so I figured I'd just flush out the rear brake line, leave the stock one in place, and then this winter we would swap it out. So that's what we're doing now.
If you want to know more about them, check it out. I'm going to reuse this grommet piece. I'll get the phone. Hello?
This is an important message regarding your current credit card account. We have made several attempts to reach you. This is your final courtesy call before we are unable to lower your credit card interest rate.
I love these.
Press 1 to speak to the Member Services Department, or press 2 and your eligibility to lower your rate will expire. Thanks for responding to card services. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I'm also fine. Thank you so much for asking. So which credit card do you want? A lower interest rate like your Visa credit card or your Master? Which one you have right now?
My Visa.
Okay, and any roughly idea how much you owe on your Visa credit card?
Geez, quite a bit. Pretty good amount. Are you there?
Can you verify me? Yes, sir. Can you verify me how much you owe on your credit card?
Yep. What are you wearing? I always do that. Waste their time just like they waste mine. Alright, let's get back to it. I'll just slide this over that existing line just to help. It'll give it kind of a factory look and, you know, hold it in a little bit tighter. And I'll just push this down like it was. There. Just like that, and it'll look factory.
Now with that done, I'll never have to worry about changing out the brake lines again. It'll just be routine fluid flushes.
So check this out, guys. This is why you should service your brakes regularly. See that in there? Look at that. That's all moisture. I had this apart last year, and look at all the moisture that, I mean, that's common, but look at all the moisture that collected in that top cap, you know? Now let's loosen up this bleeder screw. I've got the reservoir topped off, and now we're just going to start pumping brake fluid out of this thing. See all that air? And you just have to make sure that you keep the master cylinder topped off, because if you suck just a little bit of air in, then you got to start over. Oh wow. Well, we got a brake pedal. See? Oh, yeah, I just let off.
Those spacers work real nice too, so when you go to put the wheel back in, that you don't have to try to spread the brake pads out. That is actually just a whisker thicker than the rotors are, so you can bleed the brakes and everything else, and it leaves the pads spread apart, so you can just roll the wheel back in, and the calipers will fit right over your brake rotors. Piece of cake. Now what I do here is just stuff a rag in around between the sprocket and the chain, and that just kind of like brings everything forward to keep the adjusters snug.
We got to get this thing out of the workshop because we got some welding projects we got to do and everything else, so sooner we get this stuff done, the sooner we can move on to bigger and better stuff, which is going to include some welding projects. So we just got to do an oil change on this, and then we'll be about done. I got to get the exhaust welded up also. I don't think we're going to be able to get to it today, but I've only got 1,000 miles on this oil. I know that sounds kind of crazy, but I'm running Mobil 1 full synthetic in it, motorcycle oil, and I didn't really like it. So originally when I bought this bike, it had 11,000 miles on it, and when I went to go pick it up, I discovered it had been crashed, and I bought it during the middle of a snowstorm. So I didn't really have any way of testing out or seeing how it went. Like I say, it had 11,000 miles on it. I brought it home, completely went through the bike, and I soon discovered that the damage was a lot worse than I realized. The front end had a set of bent forks on it. Now, I'll give you a brief history on the bike. The bike is a 2003 Suzuki. The bike was purchased new from the original buyer in 2004, and the guy had it for 1 month and wrecked it. The bike sit in an insurance company's garage for like 5 or 6 years before it was sold to the guy that I bought it from. He drove it the entire time, never did anything to the bike. Just original plugs, original brake pads. When I bought it, everything was original. Brake pads, spark plugs, air filter. The tires had been changed somewhere along the way when he bought it. But other than that, completely bone stock original. So when I picked up the bike, I did an oil change on it. this is what I put for oil in it. It's a semi-synthetic motor oil. Everything was great, no issues. I only ran that oil for like 1,000 miles. I wanted to flush it out. Then I switched over to Mobil 1 synthetic, which is what we just drained out. During that time, some leaks started developing that weren't there previously. Prior to that, it was completely dry underneath the bike. And I noticed that the clutch slipped on 2 different occasions. So I'm going back to the oil that we originally had in it, which was this. And hopefully we don't have any issues. But yeah, I'm not too happy with the Mobil 1. So I had a brand new, and I know that it doesn't full synthetic oil doesn't cause seals to leak, but I bought a new truck many years ago, and I had probably 20,000 miles on it. I bought it brand new, and I switched over to fully synthetic oil, and literally I had stains all over my garage floor as soon as I changed over. Like literally that night, I had stains all over my garage. I drained out all that synthetic oil and put conventional oil back in it. Never had a leak again. Literally put 100,000 miles on it, completely bone dry underneath. So I think synthetic oil is just so slippery that it just finds the weak link and it'll leak. Well, you know, I don't mind changing my oil every 3,000 miles, so I'll just go with a semi-synthetic and that'll be enough. So I'm going to pre-fill my filter. It's something I always do. I even do it with cars, you know what I mean? And you can use the washer over, but I just put a new one on it. Why not? They're cheap. I buy a ton of them all at once. So these containers make it super easy because they hold 4 quarts, and that's what both of my bikes take. So this is kind of fun, guys. This is my homemade Fume extractor that I made. I only got like 60 bucks in it, but it works also good for working on bikes. So if you want to see how I built this, I'll put a link up above. But it's pretty straightforward. It's just an inline blower motor. Then I just plug it into that receptacle right there, and there's actually right at that end where the end of that tube is, there's a window right by there, so it vents it right out. So works pretty slick. So combination exhaust vent and welding fume vent. Done. So that's about it for this year, guys. I don't think really I have much more to do. I'll probably do some probably LED taillights, and I'm gonna do a tail tidy that I got for this, but I'm not gonna put it on that. So it'll be something like that. I'll just lop all that off and then just put that right there, because these are LEDs also. So I think that'll look pretty good. This was a fun build. I don't have a whole lot of motorcycle mechanic experience, so this was kind of like, for me, kind of like a learning curve, but boy, I had a lot of fun doing it. I'm kind of mechanically inclined. I pick up things pretty quick, probably like a lot of you guys that watch this channel. You guys probably tinker with stuff, and you're probably pretty good with stuff like that too. So, but I really enjoyed working on this bike. I think working on it was about half the much fun is getting it to the point where it is now. Like I said, this is my daily driver. If you want to see what this started out with, I'll put a link up above, but I picked this up, like I said, in the middle of a snowstorm. I never even got to drive it, and honestly, I'll tell you now, because I told it in another episode, I paid like 700 bucks for it. It was like $700 or $750. I stole this thing, and it only had 11,000 miles on it, and it was all original, other than this pipe. Even the brake pads were original. The only thing we got left to do, I won't be able to do it in this week's episode, is we're going to do some stainless steel TIG welding on this exhaust here. and I'm going to make an adapter so that this exhaust fits better. You can see how one doesn't slide over the other. This is just kind of like hacked on there, and somebody put like a clamp on it and it looks like garbage, so I want to do it a little bit nicer. But I also have this too. That's kind of the reason I'm really doing it. I kind of want to put this on it. I just like the looks of it. You know, this bike's kind of like all blacked out with just a little bit of silver here and there, and that's kind of what I like. So I think that would look really nice if that was like hug the bike really tight. I don't know. Yeah, she's but not much different than this. I mean, this Yoshimura is wide open too. So that's all there is to it, guys. I want to thank you for watching. Thank you guys for tuning in. New videos every Friday. I primarily try to do welding videos, but they can't all be. I got to get this stuff done. I got to get it out of the workshop so we can get on to doing some welding stuff. If you guys wonder what I'm working on before it makes it up to YouTube, you guys can catch me on Instagram and on Facebook. Until next week, guys, I will see you then. Take care. Stay safe. See ya. Like, comment, subscribe.